What's up, everybody? Welcome back to WEGS Garage. As you can see, it's starting to feel a lot like fall around here. But today is a beautiful day. We're gonna get our 1964 Triumph TR4 out there for a nice fall drive. First, we got just one thing we're gonna take care of first, and then we're gonna take it out. Stay tuned.
Put in a voltage stub. Put in a voltage stabilizer. Toy boat.
Oh, why would we want to do that?
Because you're here and you bend easier than I do.
That's right. It's right
Especially
down
when
there.
you see where it's at.
Alright, so here's what we were finding when we were driving this thing. We were still having a lot of temperature showing on the temp gauge when we were driving, but it doesn't seem to be matching what we're actually getting for temperature. And then the other thing is, as we would turn on and off electrical things like the heater fan and the headlights and stuff like that, the temperature would just swing all over on the gauge. So those are the symptoms that we think might be related to a bad voltage stabilizer. To be more specific, a bad gauge voltage stabilizer. So this car, a lot of Triumphs, a lot of MGs, they have what's called a gauge voltage stabilizer. It's a little regulator device that knocks the voltage down from battery voltage to, I believe, 10 volts for the fuel gauge and the temp gauge. And when that goes bad, it kind of gives you some weird readings. So considering the voltage swinging all over the place like that, that's why we think it's probably a bad gauge voltage stabilizer. Luckily, it's a pretty cheap part. And this is actually a replacement one from Moss Motors. That's it's a digital device or
Electronic?
yes. Thank you. Electronic. That's the word I'm looking for. So this is a replacement one from Moss Motors. It is an electronic gauge voltage stabilizer. It's a little bit different than the original style that was used. I think they're only like 20 bucks or something. So it's not expensive. The digital is supposed to be better-ish. I mean, there's downsides to that too, but we're going to go ahead and swap it out. Of course, the worst part of this job is it is located, of course, up under the passenger footwell on this car. So not the easiest thing to get to, but it just has like 4 wires going to it and a couple of screws that ground it to the chassis. Shouldn't take too long to replace, and then hopefully that'll get our gauges more consistent readings. I'm going to stop talking now and we're going to put this in. This device has a few wires going to it. The black and green on this car is the stabilized voltage, and then the rest of this is just power wires coming in and meeting up and going various different directions. So after miraculous feats of bodily manipulation to get up here, this is now installed. Those spade terminals are very loose on the new device, so it took a lot of finagling to get them to fit tightly. But you can see they're nice and tight now. There it is. I'm uncomfortable now. Time to go see this if this thing works. Okay, so after all that, here it is. It's power on, and what you might notice right away is nothing is reading. And so with the meter, I've tested this thing, and I've got it hooked up right now to the output terminal on this thing, and it is that's 0. It's dead. So I've checked the ground, I checked everything, and it just, I don't know, thing does not work. So I don't know if we just got a bad stabilizer or what the problem is here, but obviously we've not only not fixed the problem, we actually just made it worse. So we tested the old one too, and it is kind of inconsistent. Gets you maybe 8 or 9 or 10 volts, somewhere in there, but it does at least work. So I guess we'll put that back in. There was some paint on the terminals. We'll clean that up, see if maybe that helps a little bit. And then, I don't know, hopefully still get out there.
Okay, switch is on. Okay, we got fuel gauge coming up. And the output from the voltage stabilizer is at reading. Let's flip some things on and see what it does. First, the heater motor. Yeah, that knocked it down. How about wipers? Now the granddaddy, headlights.
I don't know how consistent these things normally are, but this one doesn't seem to work worth a crap either. You can definitely see it on the gauge when you turn these things on and off. It's kind of surprising it goes this high when there's nothing on.
And then when the key's turned off, of course it's dead. Should be. Well, let's coast it out in the driveway and start it and see what it does.
Let's do it. Alright, so here's where we're at on the voltage stabilizer. Still doesn't really seem to work right. It's very dependent on what the, like what kind of loads are on the rest of the electrical system. So I assume that's linked to the voltage actually going up and down, which seems to me to kind of defeat the purpose of the stabilizer. So my guess is this is still a bad stabilizer. Because I would expect that to kind of output a consistent voltage regardless. But I don't know, I guess this is about as much as we can do today. If you have any thoughts on our voltage stabilizer, please leave them in the comments below. We're gonna get out here and enjoy this beautiful fall scenery and go for a nice drive.
For that.
Oh, who needs first gear, huh?
Nah, just don't stop.
fresh pavement. Yeah, we should be shredding it with all this power. Oh, look, corn. Always a fascinating process to watch. Well, first stop of the day, no one's home.
Now there's a vehicle of beauty right there.
I'll make sure to get that in there.
It's called a free pickup.
Yeah, they don't make them like that anymore.
No, they don't make them free anymore.
Free. There you have it. All right, so we had a pretty good drive. Car's running great. It is getting cooler these days, so it's hard to say if we're going to get a lot more drives in this year, but it's nice to know that this thing's going to be ready to go next year. We still got a lot of little details to pick away at over the winter, including stuff like this voltage stabilizer. So stick around, we'll be back with more Triumph projects, and someday maybe another project. Stay tuned for that. Until then, cheers.